Why is it always men who propose? Quite the provocative question, isn't it? It's a curiosity that's been lingering in the back of our minds, barely touched upon. The answer is nestled within a fascinating blend of history, society, and gender roles. It's about cultural traditions, expectations, and dare I say a dash of romance. But to fully grasp the depth and complexity of this question, we need to take a trip back in time. So buckle up, we're about to embark on a journey through the ages. Our journey starts in ancient times. Picture a world where marriage wasn't about love, but rather a strategic move to build alliances, accumulate wealth, or gain social status. This was the reality for many ancient civilizations like Rome and Greece, where men were often the brokers of these alliances. In ancient Rome, for instance, marriage was a political and economic transaction. Men, being the heads of households, were the ones who proposed these arrangements. A similar scenario played out in ancient Greece, where men negotiated unions to secure alliances and inheritances. Other early societies mirrored this pattern, with men at the helm of these marital transactions. The reason was simple. These societies were largely patriarchy-driven, where men held the power and women's roles were mostly domestic. Fast forward to today and we still see remnants of these ancient traditions in our marriage proposals. So this tradition was born out of necessity and societal structures, but how did it evolve? Fast forward to the Middle Ages and the Victorian era. Now societal norms and the concept of chivalry began to solidify the tradition of men proposing. It's in this period that the notion of romantic love really started to gain prominence. Men were expected to woo women, to show their devotion and sincerity. And what better way than with a marriage proposal? But even as love began to play a larger role in marriage, the societal roles and expectations of women remained fairly rigid. Women were viewed as delicate, needing protection, and not capable of making such profound decisions. So, the responsibility or privilege of proposing marriage lay with men. Meanwhile, the Victorian era, known for its strict social codes, only reinforced these norms. Proposing marriage was seen as a man's duty, a symbol of his willingness to take on the role of provider and protector. Thus, the tradition continued. But what about today? Welcome to the 21st century. In this modern era, we've seen a massive shift in societal norms, and yet the tradition of men being the ones to pop the question persists. It's a curious thing, isn't it? We've moved past so many outdated ideas and stereotypes, but this one hangs on. Almost like a stubborn relic of the past. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not that there's anything inherently wrong with a man proposing. It's a beautiful thing when it's done out of love and respect. The issue lies in the expectation that it has to be the man, and that a woman proposing is somehow less valid or acceptable. But guess what? Times are changing, and so are the rules. More and more we're seeing women stepping up to the plate, diamond ring in hand, ready to ask the big question. And why not? Love is love, after all, and it doesn't care about outdated traditions or gender roles. In this era of equality and empowerment, the idea of women proposing is gaining ground. It may be a slow change, but it's a change nonetheless. And as more women embrace this idea, we may just see a day when the question of who proposes is as irrelevant as who should do the dishes or mow the lawn. So while it's mostly men who propose, it's not a rule set in stone. So why is it always men who propose? Well, as we've explored, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's a mix of historical necessity, societal norms, and the concept of chivalry. We've seen how in ancient times marriages were more about alliances and survival. Moving on to the Middle Ages and the Victorian era, the notion of chivalry took center stage. Men were expected to be the initiators, the knights in shining armor, so to speak. Fast forward to modern times, while many still adhere to this tradition, we're witnessing change. More and more women are stepping up and proposing to their partners, challenging the status quo. It's about personal choice, love, and equality now more than ever. It's important to remember that traditions are not set in stone. They evolve with societies, reflecting changing attitudes and values. Traditions are powerful, but they're not unchangeable. Who knows what the future of proposals holds?